Hello and welcome to Prayer of the First Light. If you want to start each day with words that transform your life and bring you closer to God, this is the right place. Just subscribe to the channel now, activate the notification bell, and walk with us on this journey of faith and inspiration. Adrian Castell always imagined that strength meant never falling, but life taught him otherwise. He was an ordinary man, with silent dreams and an invisible weight he carried as if it were part of his body. Outwardly, he was known for his calmness. Inwardly, a trapped scream scratched at his soul every dawn. There were nights when he sat on the floor of his dark yet unlit room, his hands trembling, feeling his heart crumble like fragile glass. He asked the sky if he had been forgotten, if God still heard him, or if the heavens were locked forever. The silence seemed to mock him, and faith slipped through his fingers like water impossible to hold. Each dawn was a struggle, each breath a battle no one applauded. He believed he was alone, but he didn't know that the entire sky was watching, because God doesn't leave when the heart cries out. He works in the darkness. One day, exhausted and directionless, Adrian walked to an old city bridge, where the river ran heavy and dark. The water seemed to reflect his own chaos. He thought of giving up, not because he was a coward, but because he was tired of resisting. There, with the cold wind hitting his face, he looked at the sky and whispered, "If you are there, say something." No answer came, no sign, no visible miracle, only silence. But in that silence, an invisible seed began to sprout. The Bible he had carried for years, forgotten in a drawer, returned to his memory like a distant whisper. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And for the first time in many months, he felt that perhaps he wasn't speaking to the void. Perhaps the silence was the beginning of something. The next day, for no apparent reason, Adrian entered a small church on his way to work. There was no music, no crowd. Just empty pews and the light from the stained glass painting the floor as if the sky were kissing the earth. He sat down and stared at the silent cross. For some unknown reason, tears he thought no longer existed began to fall, heavy and warm, not because he understood, but because his soul was tired of carrying everything alone. And there, powerless and without masks, he whispered, "If there is a purpose to this pain, I need to see it." He felt ashamed of his own tears, but a step of courage is born precisely when everything hurts. The pain that crushed him was the soil where God planted something new. Nothing changes from the outside in. True change begins in the soul. While he wept, there was a gentle voice in his heart, which did not come from outside, but from within, like wind that moves leaves without revealing its origin. And that voice said, "Stay, it is not the end." Adrian's heart, so accustomed to believing in failure, did not know how to react. But something changed in that instant, not around, but within. The external chaos continued. The problems were there, but the fear began to lose its power. It seemed that God had collected each tear to transform them into fuel. He remembered a passage he had heard in childhood: "He who goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with joy." He realized that silence was not abandonment, it was construction. Like a seed buried in dark earth, invisible to the eye, his faith was germinating in the darkness. Days passed, and nothing extraordinary happened externally. Bills still overdue, nights still difficult, loneliness still present. But within him, a silent miracle was growing. He began to converse with God, not asking for answers, but for companionship. He walked the streets and thought about how many times he had tried to carry the world alone. He realized that faith is not about feeling, it is about remaining even when nothing makes sense. And little by little, pain ceased to be an enemy and became a teacher. Fear told him that all was lost, but the word said, "The Lord will fight for you." You need only to be still. The truth began to gain ground within him, expelling old lies. The impossible ceased to be a threat and became the perfect setting for a miracle. One morning, as the sun rose like liquid gold over the city, Adrian felt his heart beat differently. The light streamed through the window in an almost poetic way, as if saying that the sky was opening invisible curtains. He took a deep breath and decided to change the question, no longer why, but for what purpose. And this change of mindset transformed his steps. From someone who awaited the end, he became someone who awaited the beginning. He understood that God wasn't rebuilding what he was rebuilding who he would become. Like Joseph in prison, like David in the field, like Moses in the desert, his story was being composed in silence. The process was painful because the purpose was great. The delay that hurt him so much was merely preparation. In the midst of this transformation, a new challenge arose: forgiveness. Forgiving people who had hurt him, and even more difficult, forgiving himself. He realized he held grudges like someone carrying stones in their pockets trying to swim. He understood that forgiveness is not a feeling, but a spiritual decision. It wasn't about saying everything was all right, but about freeing himself from what held him captive. He remembered a passage that said, "Forgive as the Lord forgave you." And that night, before the silent cross, he released painful names, burning memories, and guilt that crushed him. And for the first time in years, he slept without war in his chest. Forgiving was opening hands that had been closed for a long time, making room for God to bring in the new. Then something began to blossom. It wasn't visible to others, but it was real. He found himself smiling as he walked, like someone who had discovered an ancient secret hidden in the subtext of life. The pain was now a scar, and a scar is proof that the wound has healed. The silence that once seemed cruel was now sacred, like a delivery room where miracles are born. He no longer saw storms as the end, but as warnings that heaven was near. He learned to rest, because he understood that when everything seems out of control, God is still in command. The storm raged outside, but for the first time, there was peace within. And this peace didn't depend on what was happening in the world, but on what was happening in his soul. One day, walking back to the bridge where he had almost given up, he smiled at the sight of the river. That same place that had been a scene of despair was now a stage for rebirth. He leaned against the railing and looked at the horizon, and felt a gentle voice within whispering, "Be still, and know that I am God." He remembered the night he thought he wouldn't survive, and now he was there, alive, stronger, more whole. He thought about the struggles that had almost broken him and realized that they were what had built him. What was once a tomb was now a garden. What was once tears was now a testimony. What was once silence was now an answer. He understood that his impossible situation had been the stage for God's glory. And then something unexpected happened. People began to ask what had changed. They didn't see everything resolved, but they saw a new light in his eyes, a journey without luxury, without great material achievements, but with something rare, true peace. And he would only say, "My strength didn't come from victories, but from falls." He recounted how God found him in the darkness, how silence transformed his soul, and how the waiting wasn't punishment, but preparation. And many listened, because pain recognizes pain. People who feigned strength began to collapse on his shoulder, seeking the same rebirth. And so, his testimony became a bridge to miracles. The wound turned into healing. The tear became a tool. Over time, Adrian realized that his life had been redesigned by an invisible hand. He was no longer a slave to fears, no longer living as a victim, but as someone called to live with purpose. The words that destroyed him didn't define his destiny. The voice of God within him did. He learned that no one has the power to steal what heaven determines. He also learned that comparison is prison. Each soul flourishes in its own season. He began to celebrate small victories, slow steps, silent growth. He discovered that true greatness lies not in the size of the achievement, but in the depth of the transformation. He now knew God works first in the unseen realms and then reveals the impossible. One night, gazing at the star-filled sky, he understood that the most intense battles always appear in the moments preceding great turning points. The attack was great because the calling was greater. He took a deep breath and felt his heart lighten, as if it were possible to touch eternity with his fingers. He thought about how he almost gave up and smiled with gratitude. If he had given up, he would never have known the power of rebirth. The pain that tried to kill him now made him live with purpose. He clearly saw that everything cooperated: the fall, the waiting, the silence, and even the tears. And at that moment, he promised never to look back with regret, but with reverence. God transformed his ruins into a structure. Adrian now walked as one who carries a light that the world cannot extinguish. Where he saw desert, he now saw promise. Where he saw an end, he now saw a beginning. He became a living witness that God transforms impossibilities and rebuilds broken hearts. His days still had challenges, but there was no longer fear, there was confidence. He discovered that miracles begin when empty hands are raised. He understood that faith doesn't remove storms, but gives strength to weather them. And so, his story became a song of hope for others who still struggle in the dark. He now knew why he survived: to remind the world that God never abandons his own. And today, if you also feel you are at the end, Adrian would say, don't give up. God's silence is not the end. It is the beginning of something invisible being built. The tears that fall today water seeds that will bloom tomorrow. The scars that burn today will be bridges to heal others. The storm that frightens you is the exact scenario where heaven intervenes. What seems like defeat is a stage for victory. What seems like delay is preparation. And when the answer arrives, it will be so great that you will understand every second of waiting. Because for God, nothing is impossible. And when dawn arrives, and it will arrive, your joy will be greater than all pain. The story doesn't end here. There are times when life seems heavier than our shoulders can bear, and the soul silently cries out for help while the world believes everything is all right. Inside, weariness accumulates. Faith seems to dissolve like water through your fingers, and your heart wonders if God is still listening. It is at this moment that doubt whispers that there is no way out, that nothing will change, that you are alone in the middle of the storm. But the truth is that God has never left your side, not for a second. He saw every night you went to sleep crying, and every morning you woke up weak but still continued. He didn't give up on you, not even when you had already given up on yourself. His hands remain outstretched, waiting for the perfect moment to transform pain into purpose and tears into testimony. Because when everything seems to end, God is only opening a new beginning. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 35, there is a right time for everything, even for God's silence. He doesn't remain silent to punish you, but to strengthen what you carry within your heart. If everything were immediate, you would never discover the magnitude of the strength He has placed within you. When God seems absent, it's because He is working on something so profound that your eyes cannot yet see it. The same earth that seems empty is the one that germinates invisible seeds, waiting for the right time to bloom. So too is your life, full of buried promises, growing in silence. Waiting is not abandonment, it's building. Delay is not rejection, it's protection. God knows exactly the day the answer will arrive, and when it comes, it will be greater than anything you imagined. Therefore, even without understanding, persevere, because those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Those who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them. Psalm 126:6. If today seems impossible, remember that God always begins with the impossible. When there seems to be no way out, when you have no more strength, when the door is locked and everything seems lost, that's exactly when heaven intervenes. Miracles don't happen when everything is going well, but when everything is broken. He doesn't need you to be perfect, strong, or ready. He only needs you to be willing to not let go of his hand. He made a sea part before Moses when all that existed was a wall of water and fear. He made a giant fall before David when everyone said it was impossible. He transformed a tomb into resurrection when everyone thought it was the end. The same God is still alive today, ready to write a chapter that will surprise even you. What seems like defeat is the exact setting for victory. Your impossible is just the stage for God's glory. For with God, nothing will be impossible. Luke 1:37. There are wounds that no one sees, pains you've learned to carry in silence, and battles you fought alone while feigning strength so as not to worry anyone. But God knows every part of the path that hurt you, and he doesn't ignore what you've faced. You haven't gone through all this in vain. Nothing that made you cry will be wasted in his hands. The wound that burns today will be tomorrow the testimony that sets someone free. God transforms scars into bridges and pain into miracles. He doesn't abandon those who are broken. He rebuilds them piece by piece until they shine again. Take a deep breath and remember, you haven't yet seen what God has planned. The story doesn't end here because he is writing the strongest chapter of your life. Remain firm, because the one who created you will not let you fall. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. Sometimes, what you call delay, God calls preparation. You think you're standing still because you don't see results, but God is aligning everything behind the scenes. While you wait, he molds, strengthens, and perfects. If he gave you what you're asking for now, you wouldn't have the strength to sustain it. But when his time comes, nothing can stop it. God's timing is never too early or too late. It's perfect. Just as Joseph was prepared in prison to rule a kingdom, you are being prepared behind the scenes to experience something extraordinary. Don't confuse silence with abandonment, nor close doors with defeat. What seems like a delay is simply God orchestrating the best scenario. He is preparing people, resources, and paths that you cannot yet see. Keep moving forward, even slowly. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11. When loneliness tightens its grip and despair whispers that no one cares, remember, God's love for you doesn't depend on what you feel or what you experience today. He is closer now than ever before. He carries you on his shoulders when you can no longer walk. He embraces you when your strength fails. He calls you by name when everyone has forgotten you. You are not invisible to heaven. Your tears have a voice on God's throne, and he answers in time. Every struggle you've faced has made you stronger than you imagine. You don't know how resilient you've become because you've learned to survive storms that would have destroyed others. God has been with you through every fall and every dark night, silently strengthening your soul. He didn't allow the enemy to destroy you because there is still a powerful purpose in store. What seems like chaos today will be a testimony tomorrow that inspires multitudes. Don't be afraid of the future, because God is already there. He has answers where you only see doubts and paths where you only see walls. Keep fighting, even when tired, because your victory is already written. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. When fear tries to paralyze you and anxiety suffocates you from within, remember, God didn't call you to live imprisoned in panic, but free in trust. He didn't create you to live in torment, but in peace. Don't let thoughts of defeat steal your identity. You are not weak. You are not incapable. It's not too late. You are chosen, loved, and sustained by the hands that created the universe. God knows the future and has already written a peaceful ending for your story. What worries you today will soon be a source of gratitude. Take a deep breath, silence the chaos, and surrender the heavy burden to the only one who can carry it. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. There are doors that God closed because he knew they would destroy you. There are people he removed because they didn't walk with you where he will take you. There are plans that didn't work out because something greater was prepared. Nothing was a coincidence. Nothing was wasted. Everything was protection. What you lost was not part of your final destiny. Heaven plans perfect routes, even when they seem strange on earth. You were not rejected, you were redirected. And when you understand this, peace will replace pain. Because what God has reserved surpasses everything you desired. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. If today you feel you have no more strength, know that God never asked for perfection. He asked for surrender. Miracles are not born from full hands, but from raised hands. When you reach the end, he begins. When you say, I can't anymore, he answers, I can. Faith is not feeling, it is persevering. And persevering when everything hurts is one of the greatest acts of courage. Keep breathing, keep praying, keep trying. Heaven is moving in your favor, even if your eyes cannot yet see it. What you call chaos, God calls construction. What you call the end, God calls the beginning. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. There are days when getting out of bed is already a battle, and smiling seems impossible. You look in the mirror and barely recognize who you've become, because the pain has dimmed some of the brightness that existed in your eyes. But God doesn't look at you for how you feel today. He sees who you will become. He doesn't measure you by your falls, but by the courage to keep getting up. Every weary step you've taken has impressed heaven more than any easy victory. The process may be painful, but it is precisely in it that God is building the strongest version of you. Gold only shines after the fire, and you are being refined. No tear will be wasted, no suffering will be in vain. The promise still stands, and when everything makes sense, you will look back and thank God for not giving up. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Isaiah 40:31. Don't blame yourself for feeling weak. All the great men and women of faith also had moments of darkness. Elijah asked to die. David wept until he had no more strength. Job wished to disappear. And yet, God lifted them up and made them experience something beyond what they imagined. Your difficult moment is not the end of the line. It is the ground where God is planting a new beginning. He is not disgusted by your pain. He is not frightened by your doubts. He does not shy away from your weaknesses. He embraces you exactly as you are and reminds you that your story will not be marked by your fall, but by your resurrection. No matter how deep you have fallen, new life awaits you when you rise. Heaven still has extraordinary plans for your life. Arise, for the journey is still far ahead of you. 1 Kings 19:7, when everything seems out of control, remember that God has never lost control of anything. He knows every detail, every movement, every breath, and every thought of yours. Before you even ask, He already knows what you need. Before you cry, He has already prepared comfort. Before fear paralyzes you, He is already planning deliverance. What seems like chaos is not disorder, it is divine reorganization. Just as Jesus slept in the boat amidst the storm, he is also at peace within your story. If heaven is not desperate, neither do you need to be. The storm may rage outside, but God's peace can reign within. He calms winds and seas with a single word, and when he speaks, everything is transformed. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Perhaps you have been criticized, discarded, humiliated, or betrayed. Perhaps people you loved most pointed the finger and said you would amount to nothing. But God doesn't need anyone's approval to fulfill what he promised about your life. He chooses precisely those whom the world rejects and raises up those whom the world disbelieves. Gideon was the youngest in his family. Moses couldn't speak. David was just a forgotten shepherd in the field, but to God, they were already warriors, leaders, and kings, and you too are more than the labels placed upon you. Heaven called you by name when no one valued you. Don't accept words that try to diminish your identity. It's not people who decide your destiny, it's God. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. There is a strength within you that has not yet been revealed. There are gifts that God placed in your soul from the womb, waiting for the right moment to blossom. The enemy tried to stifle them with pain, fear, and guilt because he knew who you would become if you remained steadfast. The attack was great because the purpose is even greater. Therefore, don't be surprised by the intensity of the battle. It reveals the magnitude of the calling. God wouldn't invest so much in someone who didn't carry a powerful mission. You're not alive by chance. You're still breathing because something grand is in store for you. What's to come will be so powerful that it will make sense of every tear that has fallen. Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. 1 John 4:4. Comparison is a trap that steals peace and destroys identity. Don't try to live someone else's story when God has written a unique and exclusive one for you. Other people's time is not your time. The achievements of others do not diminish what God has planned for your journey. A tree doesn't despair because another blossomed before. Each has its season. Yours will come too, and it will be beautiful. Stop looking to the side and start looking up. Heaven hasn't forgotten what it promised. Your life isn't behind schedule. It's aligned with God's perfect timetable. Trust the process and celebrate what you've already overcome. He who promised is faithful. Hebrews 10:23. There are days when getting out of bed is already a battle, and smiling seems impossible. You look in the mirror and barely recognize who you've become, because the pain has dimmed some of the brightness that existed in your eyes. But God doesn't look at you for what you feel today. He sees who you will still become. He doesn't measure you by your falls, but by the courage to keep getting up. Every tired step you've taken has impressed heaven more than any easy victory. The process may be painful, but it is precisely in it that God is building the strongest version of you. Gold only shines after the fire, and you are being refined. No tear will be wasted, no suffering will be useless. The promise still stands, and when everything makes sense, you will look back and thank God for not giving up. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Isaiah 40:31. Don't blame yourself for feeling weak. All the great men and women of faith also had moments of darkness. Elijah asked to die, David wept until he had no more strength, Job wished to disappear, and yet God raised them up and made them experience something beyond what they imagined. Your difficult moment is not the end of the line. It is the ground where God is planting a new beginning. He is not disgusted by your pain. He is not frightened by your doubts. He does not turn away from your weaknesses. He embraces you exactly as you are and reminds you that your story will not be marked by your fall, but by your resurrection. No matter how deep you have fallen, there is new life waiting for you to rise. Heaven still has extraordinary plans for your life. Arise, for the journey is still far ahead of you. 1 Kings 19:7. Beloved Father, I take a deep breath now and surrender before your presence. I come with a weary heart, wounded and heavy from the battles I have faced. I acknowledge that many times I thought I was alone when everything seemed dark and silent. But today I declare that I am not forsaken, because you are the God who works in the darkness. I place before you all the weight that my soul can no longer carry, and I rest in your eternal hands. Breathe with me, Lord. Calm my chaos. Silence the despair that screams within me, and fill my chest with your peace that surpasses all understanding. Lord, I cry out for your light in the place where hope has almost died. Illuminate the shadow that surrounds me. Lift my head when I no longer have strength. Remind me that I have not been forgotten by you, because you see every tear that falls in the silence of the early morning, and gather each one like seeds of miracle. Teach me to rest when I want to run away. Teach me to trust when my hands tremble. Teach me to persevere when everything within me wants to give up. Breathe into me, God. Breathe new life upon weary bones. Renew the breath of my soul and transform my pain into purpose. Father, if there is purpose in this valley, reveal it, even if it's a whisper in the silence, even if it's not an answer, but a presence. Sustain my spirit when fear tries to paralyze me, when anxiety suffocates and despair tightens my chest. Remind me that there is still a dawn reserved for me, because weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Teach me to wait without murmuring, to trust without seeing, to believe without touching. Breathe deeply with me and take away the weight that bends my knees. God, I pray that your voice speaks louder than my doubts, that your truth silences the lies I have carried for so long, that love conquers fear and that faith conquers chaos. I surrender everything that hurts, everything that bleeds, everything I hid for fear of seeming weak, because in your presence, weakness is a place of encounter and not of shame. Pour out your strength where there is no more human strength. Pour out your peace where there is inner turmoil. Pour out your healing where there are wounds hidden. Lord, pour out courage upon me to continue, even when the steps are slow, even when the future seems uncertain, because I know that you walk with me, and that no storm can hinder your plan. Guard my heart from discouragement. Guard my mind from chaos. Guard my soul from despair. Breathe deeply upon me and breathe renewal. Renew hope where hope has died. Renew faith where faith has dried up. Renew dreams that I abandoned along the way. Father, I pray now for the miracle I do not see, for the path that has not yet appeared, for the answer that has not yet arrived, because I know that you act in the invisible, preparing the ground, aligning doors, building the impossible, and when I am silent, you continue working. Teach me to trust in your perfect timing, to rest in your process, to wait without losing my essence. Breathe patience into me, courage, perseverance, and make me firm until the end. God, I pray for inner healing, healing of memories that hurt, healing of words that wounded, healing of betrayals that still bleed today. Tear away stored resentments and make forgiveness bloom where there was pain. Free my heart from the weight that suffocates me, and make me walk lightly like one who carries no stones. Breathe mercy upon me, restore my broken soul, and rebuild what I destroyed.